The New York Liberty are rolling 4 in a row here in year 2 of a brand new team that's been put together. Sandy Brondello, who knows more than just about anyone when it comes to playoff basketball, is here to join us. We're going to talk about her origin story, about the exciting 2024 Liberty, and much more. Locked On Women's Basketball starts now.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, hi there, everyone, and welcome to Locked On Women's Basketball. I'm your host, Howard Megdal. I want to thank you for making us your first listen every day. You guys keep showing up for us the way we show up for you 6 days a week. Over 200,000 of you listening in May alone. Again, make sure you subscribe on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. We just keep doing it. And of course, it is not just me. It is the incredible team over at thenexthoops.com. Over 100 reported pieces every single month from our majority non-men staff, making sure that the pipeline of tomorrow is seeded with the diversity we need in women's sports media and indeed in sports media. The great Jackie Powell, of course, on the beat for the New York Liberty. And so the Liberty, obviously a fascinating team. For those of you at home, I'm sure you know, reached the WNBA finals with a roster that was largely put together at the start of that season. And if you'll forgive the point of personal privilege, head coach Sandy Brondello figured out how to make the pieces work. I think it's worth noting in recent years, we've seen the Mystics come together in a similar way. We have seen Las Vegas come together in a similar way. It took several years to even reach the finals. But I'm just going to read a list before we get started, Sandy, of all the years you as a head coach have not made the playoffs. And that is the end of the list. It has never happened. So, Sandy, it's great to see you. I guess for me, I wonder, as you looked back on that year one, whether it happened faster than you necessarily expected.
Yeah, look, I think, Howard, first of all, thanks for having me on the show. But I think when I had to reflect back and was over the disappointment of losing that game 4 and then the championship, the opportunity to play in a game 5, I had to come to realize it's really hard to do what we did in year 1 together. You talked about Vegas, the Washington teams. It took them time to build the chemistry, find out how all the pieces work together. So, on reflection, I was extremely proud of what we did achieve. But I think, obviously being that close in year 1 was amazing, but it just gave us an extra motivation as we head into year 2 together.
I guess I wonder whether the distinction needs to be made. I wonder whether you view it this way between the WNBA history pre the 2020 CBA and post the CBA. The only reason I say it is that teams can obviously build more quickly in terms of rosters with free agency and the amount of player movement involved. And I guess relative to that, do you still think it takes time? And I ask that because there are teams that think of themselves as title contenders in year 1 this year. And I just wonder whether you think that's a doable thing in this league.
Yeah, look, I think it is a doable thing. All the pieces have to align, but it does take time. It's you can play some great games, and even last year, I can remember looking back in August, we were playing such a high level of basketball, and but there's time when you're going to take a loss, and that's where you learn the most about what we need as we move forward. It's I suppose my first year in Phoenix, 2014, I was the first time coaching Phoenix, but the team was already established and together. So they just had to get used to me, where they already had known each other, and we went on to, win the championship there. So is it impossible? No, but especially in this day and age, the talent level just keeps getting better and better, and the competition as well. So it's not easy. Obviously, we weren't able to do it, but teams, you always got to believe that you can do it, regardless if it's year 1 or year 10.
It is fascinating. And again, you spoke a little bit about your history, but I want to make sure people understand. We're going to get into this in segment 1. Segment 2, we're going to talk some New York granular stats. And then segment 3, we're going to talk about WNBA and Olympics and that sort of combination of work that you're doing, of course, with the Australian national team as well. But I want to take people back. You are not an original member of the WNBA. You're a relative newcomer. You didn't join the league until, 1998 in year two. So can you take me through what that experience was like? As I understand it, you're playing in the World Championships for Australia. You finish up and immediately fly to Detroit for a team that is beginning its brand new life as the Detroit Shock.
Yeah, no, it was an amazing experience. We had Michelle Tim be a franchise player with the Phoenix Mercury, and I actually got the chance to visit her, being one of my close friends in Phoenix, and was just blown away by the support. And, as a professional basketball player, everyone wants to compete in the very best league. And that was not just my dream and goal, that was a lot of the other Australians. And if you look back in 1998, I mean, just the Detroit Shock alone, we had 3 Australians on that team. So it made the transition into the WNBA quite easy, because I had friends alongside me, and just really grateful for the wonderful memories that I was able to play at the highest level. And Nancy Liebman-Klein was my first coach, and I really enjoyed the experience. I was a 30-year-old rookie, so a little bit different than the rookies coming in today, and had gained so much experience playing internationally. It certainly helped me in the WNBA. And while I only got to play for 5 years, it was 5 wonderful years as a player before I went into my coaching career.
I always wondered this because, like you said, at age 30 is when you begin, and you had some fantastic years, including MVP at WNBL. So what was your playing level like? Did we see the best of your playing career? Was if the WNBA had started 5 years sooner, would we have seen even more? I'm just wondering, how you kind of reconcile that.
Yeah, look, I don't consider myself one of the great ones, but I consider myself one of the best Australian players that have played in the WNBA. And I was a shooter. I think I was a great pull-up shooter. Really developed my 3-point shot. But, I suppose I had so much experience. It certainly helped me when I got to the WNBA, because I've seen so many different coverages, having played in Europe for so many years leading into the WNBA. I think I could still compete with today, but I think their skill level is going to another level with their dribbling and how they finish around the rim. But, I think I'm a pretty good WNBA player, and I got to play in 4 Olympic games. So, had opportunities to learn and grow from so many great teammates.
I do think people need to understand. I mean, you hit almost 49% of your threes in year 2 in 1999, a year where you received MVP votes and All-Star votes. It is interesting to me, though, that it was very much a mid-career change for you. Was the trip the year before to go see Michelle play in Phoenix, was that your first time seeing the WNBA? Was that one of your first times here in the United States? Just kind of take me through what you remember from that time.
Yeah, look, I made the Australian team as an 18-year-old, and back then Australia wasn't ranked like we are today as a powerhouse. We actually would do 6 weeks tours, touring around America playing colleges, and it was a grind. You're on a bus, but I just only remember wonderful experiences because I loved playing basketball. I mean, what 18-year-old gets to play for their country and gets to travel overseas and do something that they love? So it was always been a passion of mine. And then when the WNBA came in, and you always think, I'd love to play there. And there was only a few teams in the beginning, but just getting a feel for it from Michelle, and knowing I played with Michelle in Germany too, and we probably weren't scouted back, Australians or international players for that matter, as much as they are today. But I think from the World Cup, I think teams were scouting us because we were. In 1996, we won a bronze medal. And then 1998 at the World Championships, we won another bronze medal. So we had amazing talent there. And, we all wanted to play in the WNBA. And it was just about getting your foot in the door and then making your game speak for itself. And I think, that's what happened to me. I was in a great spot. Nancy just basically threw me the keys of, the team. And, I just went in there and I was who I was. I had a great backcourt partner in Corey Halliday, and she was amazing. And we had a really great combo there. And, I really enjoyed my time in Detroit, and I played in Miami, and then I ended up in Seattle. So before injuries kicked in, and I decided to step away and focus on my coaching career.
I do think it's important, just some context for people, because I know you're downplaying a little bit, but 3rd most caps of any player in Australian history. You entered the starting lineup, I think it was game 3 for Nancy, and I believe you started all but 7 games the rest of your career. So again, you were again the engineer of a lot of these teams that you played on, and it's just fascinating to me the history there. I want to talk about, of course, the current team as well, and so we're going to get more into that in segment 2. Back with in just a minute, Sandy Brondello. I'm Howard Megdal. This is Locked On Women's Basketball. Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by BetterHelp. And BetterHelp gives you the opportunity to help figure things out in your life in a different way. You have friends, you have family, but having somebody who is impartial, who can listen, who can help you work through things through therapy, helps you get something off your chest and figure out a way to handle it. If you're thinking of starting therapy, BetterHelp's a great way to try it. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire. You get matched with a licensed therapist. And if that doesn't work, that's fine. Switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. So go to betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Go ahead, give therapy a try. Back here with Sandy Brondello, head coach of the New York Liberty. And when we look at this New York team here in year 2, I feel like a lot of what the growth has been so far, and we'll kind of get into the details of the numbers, is what we are seeing from Sabrina. And Sabrina Ionescu, who obviously has been a standout for this team, was very effective last year. But there's 2 elements to it. One, and the first place I want to attack, is her ability to get to the rim. She is significantly more efficient around the rim this year, and she seems to have, to my view, an extra burst. And I'm wondering if you see it that way and what the manifestation of that was, whether that's from you guys or, sort of how that came about.
Yeah, 100%. I think Sabrina, every year I've coached her, she continues to get better and better, and she's the ultimate professional. She wants to be great. She has greatness about her, and she's definitely on the way. I think everyone knows that she's a great 3-point shooter. She almost averaged 10 threes last year and had a high clip of them. But what we spoke about in the off season leading into year 2 was with this team is how can she get better? And you spoke about it. It was just her ability to get into the rim and finish. Now, everyone's going to run a 3-point shooter off the line. It's what you do with it next. And I thought she has done a really good job of just working on the floaters. I think her floaters money. She's got real good touch around the rim. It's got some runners in there as well, and being able to finish with both hands and taking the contact and finish. And we also talked about, improving that first step. So she went back in the off season in LA with her trainer and was committed to excellence, and you see the results paying off and her game going to another level.
How rare is that to see? I mean, so much of the time that first step, we kind of think of that as sort of athleticism either baked in or it's not. I mean, have you typically seen that type of ability to add speed and quickness as opposed to, something that, feels less technique based?
Yeah, look, I think everyone has the ability to get better in all areas of the game if there's a commitment to it and you're doing the right training. I think the first year that I had Sabrina, I felt like she wasn't training right. She was doing too much training that could make you, not as fast as you would like them to be. So it was just fine-tuning the training a little bit. And then the commitment to it, working with, her staff were working exactly on what she needed to. She's always going to be a great 3-point shooter. We want that. We wanted to seek out threes, but we got to, what's the next level and how can we attack defenses, when they're playing her physical, then playing her up and in. Of course, we put the ball back in her hands at time. I think she's a great pick and roll player that allows her to not just shoot threes, but get downhill and then facilitate. But off the ball, we're trying to put more action in that when it's taken away, how do we get her into the paint? And really, it's on her. She's making really great decisions. But Sabrina she is a baller. She has the it factor, and she's going to continue to get better and better because she's still just a young player.
It's fascinating too. Again, the stats reflect it. 64.3% around the rim. She was at 55% last year, which is a very solid number, but obviously 64.3 is among elite numbers when it comes to guards. Does the ability for her to do this also allow you to have a little more flexibility with what your backcourt looks like? Courtney Vandersloot, obviously, a lot of time is operating as the one for you guys, especially last year. But do you feel more comfortable with Sabrina at the one? And, in certain lineups defensively, you're able to bring in Kayla Thornton, and she has some great closing performances for you, as she already has this year.
Yeah, look, 100%. I think Sabrina's a guard, Vandersloot's a guard, but basketball's really positionless now. So it's more about being able to, every player should be able to play in all different positions, which helps the team. And, Courtney is our point guard per se, and we like her just getting downhill and getting us into our action. But there's times where we want to throw the ball onto Sabrina because we know that helps her get into game a little bit, and she's making great decisions, and it gives us a little bit more versatility. And you talked about Kayla Thornton; she's come in and gave us really productive minutes as well. But I think another person we tried to put the ball in the hand is Brianna Stewart, and you probably would have saw a lot of the action last night. And I think that versatility just helps us. If one team is taking or playing us in a certain way, how can we change it up to make sure that we're getting the best result on the court?
You talked about Brianna Stewart, and again, early on this season, you guys, after being the leaders in three-point shooting percentage last year, were, I think, below 30 at one point relatively early on. You were not even a little bit worried about this, and we've seen that number jump pretty significantly. Obviously, there's track record. Stewie is a particularly great example of having that track record. I do wonder, are you seeing in the film, are they guarding you differently around the three-point line, or is this just a question, at least from my viewpoint, and I'm not skilled at breaking down film what you are, but is that just a question of shots that were going in last year that weren't early but likely are?
Yeah, look, I think it's a bit of both, Howard. I think if you look at the synergy rankings, where in unguarded threes, we're below average, and usually we're knockdown shooters. And that's why it's like let's just stay the course here. You got to keep shooting them. We like to shoot 30 plus threes a game, but we're missing some. We're probably giving up a few too many too, because we started missing them, and it kind of gets into your head. Whereas encouraging, if you're open, that's a great shot. We've got to take it, because that's gonna, that's going to allow us to be who we are. That's our identity. But I think teams, the league's gotten better. There's way more parity. I think the athleticism of the players. I mean, the defensive's getting more physical, and it's been allowed to play physical. People are closing out, so I suppose just that aggressiveness on defense has taken away the open threes, and we're thinking a little bit, and then we're looking to get downhill, which is, we want paint to grade as well, getting 2 feet into the paint. But yeah, I just think we're missing threes, and maybe it's due to a lot of 4 of our starters didn't play in the off season. It's right. Just getting their legs under them and getting a feel for the game again. I think every game that we play, the better we get.
So your opinion is that Brianna Stewart, a career 36% three-point shooter, won't shoot 20% from three for the year?
No, not at all. And it was great to see her get back. We need her to have aggressive mentality. I want her. I keep telling her, you got to take them. You got to take them. They're going to keep falling. But yeah, I mean, she can score on all 3 different levels.
It was a remarkable performance last night, to be sure. And it was a rare time, and we don't need to get you fined, so we won't talk about why her minutes were limited. But Jonquel Jones last night was not scoring the way she has been throughout this season, where there's been another level of dominance, it seems to me, from her, particularly her ability to not just score around the rim, which she's always been able to do, but to find her position more. Is she stronger than she has been? Which is, I know, a strange thing to ask about someone whose strength has been one of the signature parts of what she's been. In your view so far? Yeah,
look, I think for JJ last year, she came in injured. So it took her a while to get back into the game shape that she was used to. And once she did, we went to another level. That's how impactful JJ is to our game. But yeah, absolutely 100%. I think she's one of the best players that can roll and then seal up deep in the paint, and then make good decisions there. And we haven't, we're getting enough her touches, but not enough touches. So we continue to work on that, because she is very impactful. You would have seen some of her players, her passes last night. When she's getting trapped, she's a pretty good passer from there as well. But I think that certainly helps us. We've got the shooters around it, but it's a gravitational pull. If we got one of our star players just rolling to the rim, they attract so many players that it opens up for the threes. But JJ just has a lot of confidence coming back from China. I thought she was, in the playoffs, she was excellent. She's probably our best player in the playoffs last year, and she's just continuing that dominance. And even though she got into foul trouble last night, in that fourth quarter, she had the highest plus minus because of her ability to change shots at the rim and her defense and rebounding when we needed it.
It is worth noting, just on the granular side of this, I know you love passing bigs. She is the leader on her entire career mark in assist percentage, north of 17% assist percentage here. And to your point, also the highest true shooting percentage she has through 10 games of any year in her career, including the year she won the MVP. It's going to be fascinating to see. Frankly, I don't envy future me at all. I'm going to have to figure out the MVP voting, but I think JJ absolutely has to be in those conversations as well. So we're going to come back in segment 3, talk a little bit about how it is to work with your spouse, what the work-life balance is between the WNBA and getting Australia ready for the Olympics. Lots more to come here with Sandy Brondello. I'm Howard Megdal. You're listening to Locked On Women's Basketball. Locked On Women's Basketball is brought to you by Miracle Sheets. And Miracle Made Sheets are a godsend at this moment in time. We have gotten into summer. It gets real hot, even at night. So when you want to make sure that you're not waking up too hot or too cold, Miracle Made Sheets give you the opportunity to do it. They're inspired by NASA and use silver-infused fabrics that are temperature regulating, so you can sleep on the perfect temperature all night long. They became a sponsor of our program, and we tried them out. I love them. My wife is a big fan. My children come in and say it's wonderful as well. These self-cooling properties, better quality sleep, and we love the way they look on our bed. So you want to try it as well? Go to trymiracle.com/locked on. Again, that is trymiracle.com/LOCKEDON. We have an offer for you right now. If you use the promo code locked on at checkout, you'll get 3 free towels and save an extra 20%. Again, upgrade your sleep with Miracle Made Sheets. Go to trymiracle.com/locked on and use the code locked on to claim your free 3-piece towel set and save 40% off. Miracle Sheets. Cannot recommend them highly enough to you. Back here with Sandy Brondello talking about this New York Liberty team, but also, and again, this is a common mistake that people who are new to the league make. They say, oh, what a coincidence that the Australian head coach is also named Sandy Brondello. But no, I'm here to tell you, friends, it is the same person who manages to do both. Sandy, how do you do that? What is a day in the life looking like for you right now as we are hurtling toward the Olympics, and you are also the head coach of a contending WNBA team?
Yeah, firstly, I'd like to say I think I got the 2 best jobs in the world. I get to coach the New York Liberty, and then I get to coach the Australian Opals, which I have great passion for, having played in 4 Olympics and played so many games for Australia. But yeah, to be quite honest, I have great people around me, and they've just completed a China tour, and my assistant coach leads in my absence, and I give, they've been with me for so many years. So I don't need to interfere. I'm just, watching from afar, staying in contact with them, and getting ready to name the next team to go to Japan for a 2-game series as well too. So a lot of my work is done in the off season. Once I get in the season, it's just staying in contact with some of the players and making sure we're checking in. And like any team, is the hardest part of my job is making that final selection for the 12 players and with my staff. And we've got so much talent at the moment, but really, really excited. I think we're in a great spot. Our culture's where it needs to be. We have great continuity with our players, and we have a great, difference between you got some young talent, but we also got the experienced players coming in. So, though excited, it really, when I'm in New York, my main focus is with the Liberty. And once I finish on July 16th, my last game here, I'll jet off to Spain, and my whole focus will just go into the Opals. And just watching from afar at the moment and staying engaged and helping them where I can. But I love what I do. It's just a huge passion. It's a huge privilege to coach two great teams.
Are you able, and I don't know how this works, right? When you're breaking down game film, you, as you pointed out, you're in the midst of coaching this Liberty team and figuring out even that final 12. And there are numerous talented Australian players here in the WNBA. Are you able to look at it in two different ways? Do you watch game film twice, once with one in mind, once in the other? Like, how does that work for you?
No, not at all. Look, when I'm, like I said, as a head coach, I finish one game. Now I start focusing on Atlanta Dream. That's it. I'm just trying to find ways. What do we need to do to make sure that we can, get the win tomorrow against a really good team? I obviously I track the Australian players, and when I'm scouting them, I'm paying a little bit more extra attention because I do get to watch so many games, and then just staying in contact with the coaches back there and seeing how the players are going there. And but yeah, look, I think it's possible to do both. I think Cheryl Reeves, she's very similar to. I mean, she's USA coach and will be leading the. She does a great job with the Minnesota Lynx. So I think it's all possible. I think women are amazing human beings, and they can multitask and be great at many things because that's what we've had to do our whole life.
It boggles my mind. It is incredibly impressive. And so just in terms of the Australian history, I know there are these near misses that we always talk about. I mean, we go back to 98, and there was that you had a potential chance. I mean, that team was so good, as I don't have to tell you, and the U.S. is looming, and then there's that semifinal loss in the game against Russia. Have you allowed yourself to envision what it would feel like to have that championship, to win Olympic gold medal with Australia?
Yeah, look, I've played in 2 gold medal games against the USA and back in 2000 in Sydney Olympics, and they were too dominant for it that day. I thought we had a better showing in Athens in 2004. Yeah. But you have to go in with the belief that you can beat anyone on any given day. That's just like the WNBA too. It doesn't matter how much talent one team has, but you have to believe it. It is a mindset. Never done it. Is this the year? That would be amazing. We know it won't be easy, but we know we have the potential to win a gold medal. And you have to go in with that mindset and believe that you can, individually and collectively as a team. The only time Australia's won a gold medal at a major tournament was in the World Cup, whereas USA got beaten by Russia. So we got to play Russia in the gold medal. I was not a part of that. I just retired. That was 2 years later. But still a proud moment because it's hard to win any medals now. I think the rest of the world continues to get better and better. You see the talent just in the WNBA and all the international players what we have here. So you have to work really hard, and hopefully you can be as consistent as you can be. And, it's a very stressful environment, but you have to go out and play to your best.
The last thing before we wrap things up today is just, you mentioned your assistants, your staff. It's always struck me how when you talked about Olaf Land, who you are married to, as an assistant, and that balance and striking that balance, I just wonder how you do it in a day-to-day experience, within a marriage. Are there certain times where you say that's off limits? Are there date nights where the two of you say, like, we won't discuss basketball? Like, how do you figure that out and strike that balance together? Obviously, it's worked very well.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think we have too much balance, but we both we have the same passion. So I think that is great for us. Obviously, we have 2 children too. We have other things off the court that we enjoy, and but we both love basketball. So does the topic always come back to basketball? And if we're out for dinner, yeah, most likely, or it's around our kids. But I think, look, Olaf and I, we've been together for such a long time, and we have great chemistry together. Obviously, we are different coaches, like we are, but that's what makes our connection special. As a head coach and assistant coach, we complement each other, and we do have the same system and how we want to play, but there's always some different nuances around, but it helps us grow together basically, and we're always trying to evolve as coaches and push each other to be the best that we can be, and our kids love it too. So I think I don't know about the balance, Howard, but it's only because we love basketball. So I think that's why it works here. And he's an amazing coach, and he's had so much head coach experience. Well, and we're happy that he's on the New York Liberty staff.
Well, Hashtag relationship goals, I think, is the way the kids say it. So we're just going to close by pointing out you are 10 wins away from passing Michael Cooper on the all-time WNBA head coaching wins list. That would put you 6th in league history. So I'm just, as a point of personal privilege, going to urge our listeners to make sure we're paying attention to the role that Sandy Brondello has within league history, because it matters. It's a very big deal. Sandy, appreciate your time very much always. To our listeners, thank you for making us your first listen every day. We'll be back with you tomorrow. Rachel Banham of the Connecticut Sun will be joining us. Until then, I am Howard Megdal, wishing all of you a wonderful Wednesday.
You are Locked On Women's Basketball, your daily podcast on women's basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And appreciate you. And I'll be seeing you